Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Good Boxing Podcast with your host, Josh Saez. Today, I have the big prediction for the fight taking place tonight, and that's the fight between Alexander Povetkin and Dilian Whyte. I'm really excited for this fight. It is either going to be revenge or basically a replay of what happened the last time. If you don't know, in Alexander Povetkin versus Dilian Whyte, one, in my opinion, Dilian Whyte was cruising to a very comfortable performance. He was doing well. He dropped Povetkin twice, and it just looked like Dilian Whyte was the superb boxer in this match. He hurt him a few times. It looked like he was en route to stoppage. However, in very dramatic fashion, Alexander Povetkin, after throwing a couple hooks to the body, decided to throw the left uppercut, and Dilian Whyte, in trying to think that he had the pattern and the cadence of and rhythm of Alexander Povetkin, made the wrong mistake, brought the elbow in, uppercut snuck right in, and it was just pretty much a done deal from that point. So it was a shocking knockout. Alexander Povetkin, shout out to you. You basically resurrected your career because if you lost this fight, you would have just become a gatekeeper and essentially just someone that would prolong someone else's career that's budding. However, it didn't happen that way, and now we're into the rematch. If you don't know, Dilian Whyte before this fight only had one fight with Marius Vach, and before that, he was the mandatory for the WBC title for many days. He was the mandatory for, I believe, over 300 days plus, if I'm not mistaken. It was a very long time. And I gotta sit here and say, you saw it when he fought Vach. He was out of shape. He really didn't look like he was there to knock Vach out. And the fight was very lackluster. It was one sided. Dilian Whyte did what he had to do. And then for the fight with Alexander Povetkin, like a true professional, Dilian Whyte um, decided to show up to the fight, and he was in better shape. He looked way better than he did with Vach. However, I think he was a victim of rust that night. He tried his best to do what he could, and he was doing very well against Alexander Povetkin. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. He did well, and I thought he was going to win the fight, and he should have won the fight, but he got caught. And I think when you're a boxer and you're looking for timing, and especially against heavyweights, where look, one punch could potentially end or hurt someone, even if you're not the known for being a big puncher. If you're not the Deontay Wilders of the world, or even Tyson Fury right now that he's sitting down on his punches, if you're not one of these guys that has tremendous power, you still are a big guy. So if you hit someone with that force and you let the weight transfer over, you land with the knuckles, you're going to hurt someone, and that's exactly what happened. It was a devastating knockout and great, but the weigh-in, we have a fight. I mean, there was going to be a fight regardless. Heavyweights don't have a weight limit, and you got to sit here and say that both fighters are showing up looking different. Dilian Whyte looks extra muscular. He looks like he's in very good shape, like he's been taking this fight very seriously, and he knows this might be it for him for a while. And I'm just going to kind of talk about if it is later on in the episode, but for right now, I just want to kind of go over the weigh-in. Povetkin came in 4 pounds heavier, and Dilian Whyte came in substantially lighter for the fight. I got to sit here and say that I'm happy to see that Dilian Whyte is, I want to say, he could weigh in 252 for the first meeting, and now he is substantially less. And Povetkin weighs a lot less. He's 228, but he's 4 pounds over, so he came in 232. So both guys clearly are ready for this fight, and nothing's really changed for the most part. I don't know if the extra weight's going to help Povetkin. Maybe he felt like he needed to be a little heavier, given the fact that Dilian Whyte is a pretty strong heavyweight and does have power. As you know, he rocked Anthony Joshua, and he has a lot of good knockouts. I mean, you look at his resume. Dilian Whyte, I know a lot of people don't like him, but the guy does provide really good fights. He goes for it, and he's brash. He's all these things, and maybe that's why people don't like him, because he's outspoken, but he has been humbled several times. And even in the first fight, when you saw it, the buildup, he was so much more disrespectful than he was this time. Clearly now he knows this is going to be a fight regardless if he dominates. And I'm just going to go out and say this right now. I think Dilian Whyte is going to pitch a very complete performance. I can see a stoppage. I think he's going to spark Alexander Povetkin, and it's not going to be a close fight because Povetkin's there to get hit, and I just think Dilian Whyte's the better boxer. And honestly, if it's not a stoppage, I personally wouldn't be mad because you got to beat the guy the way you got to beat the guy. If you're trying to win and you're trying to rebuild, get your ranking back up, he wants to be the WBC mandatory again because he did lose that status when he lost to Alexander Povetkin. So I think he's going to go out there. He's going to use that nice long jab, sit down on his punches a little more, get a little less. I gotta say, he sometimes Dillian White gets a little cocky and a little arrogant, where he'll have some sort of success and kind of keep the person around. I think in this fight, he's gonna hurt Alexander Povetkin, and he's gonna go for the kill when the opportunity presents itself. I just like the body punching of Dillian White. I think that's the key for this fight. You have to go to Povetkin's body. He has a good chin. He could take a good punch, and yes, you know you could hurt him. So set it up to the head by going to the body. I know it's very, very simple. It seems easier said than done. I'm aware of all this stuff, but I think that's the key. He goes to the body, lands that left hook to the body. It'll open up that hook to the head, and vice versa. If he wants to throw that right to the body, he could throw the right to the head right after. When Povetkin, with that hands up style, brings the elbows in to block the body shots, he's going to open up the uppercuts and hooks over the top. So I think this is going to be a very, very big statement for Dillian Whyte to say he's back. And you just got to realize a lot of these guys, they're human. Whenever you have tremendous success and you're used to being a champion, you're used to constantly winning, and there are very few men that have beaten Dillian Whyte. You kind of get comfortable, you kind of get complacent, and success is also the worst curse, right? If you're successful, you're going to constantly think whatever you're doing is going to keep you successful. However, you don't realize when you're a champion, you no longer have the same drive that you did when you were trying to get the championship. When you it was all you wanted, it was everything you wanted, and you thought life was going to change. What did you do? You fought for that title. You fought, grinded because you wanted to show up. The hard part is once you get what you want, can you keep the same drive? Can you keep the same tenacity? Can you keep the same vigor when you're in the gym? And I think Dillian Whyte was a mandatory for so long. He really started to buy into his own hype that people were avoiding him, and the WBC didn't want him to fight Deontay Wilder because he felt that Wilder would lose. And the same thing went for Fury. He thinks Fury's afraid of him. And look, Dillian Whyte is a maniac. He's reckless chaos. He's pretty much chaos personified. If you looked at it, he he's wild. He's reckless at times, but he also can put it together and does show some sort of boxing ability. So he's dangerous. I just think people have to kind of separate the personality of Dillian Whyte and just recognize the fact that the guy has talent. And I think today the talent's going to show because Povetkin, tough guy, been in with everyone, true vet. I respect his boxing ability, and I feel like he can beat 90% of the heavyweights out there on any given day. However, once you kind of go up towards the upper echelon of the heavyweight division, and I'm going to sit here and say that Dillian Whyte is one of the top fighters in the heavyweight division. I would say he's probably top six, and you could arguably interchange him with other people based on the resume alone. So I think Dillian Whyte is going to come out, make a statement. I think Dilian Whyte is a little bit of a class above Alexander Povetkin, but I'm glad we're watching the fight. Now I'm going to kind of rewind back and kind of tell you more or less what the implications of this fight are if he loses. I had mentioned this on the Lights Out Boxing podcast where the heavyweight division is a very lucrative division. Right now, the reason heavyweights get paid the most, in my opinion, for the exception of the Canelo Alvarez's, and there's always rules, there's always exceptions to the rules in any statement, right? So when it comes to this, Dillian Whyte is in a very, very profitable division for promotion. He certainly brings attention whenever he fights. He sells a fight, he's box office, and he's actually pretty good. So any given day, you put him in with the Joshua or you put him in with the Andy Ruiz. Arguably, you can say that Dillian Whyte can win that fight. Even against Joshua, I really feel that Dillian Whyte in a rematch probably would do pretty well. Who knows? I'm not going to sit here and pick him to win, but it's competitive. And at the end of the day, we want to see competitive matchups. And in the heavyweight division, one punch changes everything, right? So Dillian Whyte fought Oscar Rivas, who was arguably undefeated, very strong, got dropped, and then he survived and won the fight after being out for so long, right? He was dominating Alexander Povetkin until he got caught with a lucky punch. He's rocked Joshua. He's been in fights with guys, and he's showing that he is the truth, right? So if he loses, look at Chisora. Chisora lost almost 10 times. He's lost twice to Tyson Fury. He's lost to a bunch of heavyweights, and he keeps getting a shot. So, yes, if Dillian Whyte loses this fight, he's no longer going to be mentioned amongst the top 5 or top 6 heavyweights where he's in contention for a belt. He's probably going to not go all the way to the back of the line, but he's no longer going to be able to make a case for himself to knock on the door for a title. You just have to call a spade, and that's what I'm saying. So if he loses, sure, he may be out of the limelight for a title or in that conversation. But if he does lose, Brazil's still out there, right? I laugh at that because Brazil has lost a bunch of times and keeps getting shots, right? You got Chisora, who I just mentioned, loses constantly in the limelight. Then you got a bunch of different other heavyweights like Chris Arreola. Chris Arreola is a veteran, has been around forever, and he's fighting Andy Ruiz on pay per view. Where do you go from not winning, losing to a bunch of fighters that when you step up in class, you see that there is some sort of difference, right? You got the short end of the stick. He was supposed to be the Mexican heavyweight that was going to bring the Mexican heavyweight boxing to the limelight, but he failed. But he still is in pay per view. So if he loses, I think Dillian Whyte's going to be fine. However, I just don't see it happening, and I think Dillian Whyte's going to take care of business. What does it mean for Povetkin? He's still going to be around. I mean, if he doesn't retire, I can certainly see him in fights with other heavyweights because the heavyweight division is selling and it's hot and it has depth. He could fight the Andy Ruizes of the world trying to rebuild. You can do so much when it comes to the heavyweight division, especially with the up and coming fighters like Ergovich. You got Daniel Dubois of the world. You got the Joe Joyces of the world. Usyk. There's going to be fighters out there that are going to get in the ring with either Povetkin or Dilian Whyte. So that's the episode for today. Let me know how you feel. The YouTube channel is actually going to get a revamp, which is awesome. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe on YouTube, Good Boxing Podcast. Also, follow Instagram at Good Boxing Podcast. I have a lot of cool things coming up and was sick a couple days and I've really been feeling it lately, but I'm back. I'm here. I feel like I say that every week, but I don't know what's going on. But for the most part, I'm excited to be back and I look forward to doing a bunch of episodes. I'm going to drop a bunch coming up and the grind's back. All right. Be well. Have a great day.